Most accredited investors are switching to Section 8 as their investment model or vetted investors. And I'm going to explain exactly why as someone that owns multiple properties. And it's not for the reasons that you think. Just so much some insight you could have in regards to our situation and our qualifications is obviously myself. Our business was promoted in Times Square. This is me with one of my fourplexes, me signing one of my units. This is what I was all done without having W-2s, bunch of income reported on paper, 1099s, did not have any handouts, rich parents, all of the above. This is something that I started from complete zero, bought a mentorship, scaled, did my own path, was able to take my whole family to Turks. So it's not necessarily just in regards to the real estate purchases, but what real estate can actually do for you. It's not only myself, but all of our case studies. So I want you guys to understand all of this before I explicitly talk about it. So the reason why most of these investors are switching to Section 8 as their model because of risk mitigation. You have to think about it from a logic perspective. These people have worked so hard to get all this money. They want to not only be in a situation where they can maximize on how much they're going to make, but mitigate and minimize how much you're going to lose. Because the biggest thing once you start to scale, from what I've personally experienced, is not necessarily about how much you can gain, but how little can you actually lose. Look at what's happening right now in Mexico. People that invested in Airbnbs or in rentals that are out there kind of taking a hard hit, and you're in a position where it's completely out of your control, but you are still liable for the property that you bought in regards to either the bank loan or if you bought it out cash and anything that happens to it in terms of what's going on, maintenance, vacancy, all of the above. And alongside that, someone that also owns multifamily units that are traditional, I understand that you're not in a position where you can always get max rent because of individuals that are renting your units that are always going to want more space and want the fucking most for this unit that you're providing them. So this is not necessarily only in a matter of the unit in of itself and the inside and what's beyond the paint and the sides of the walls, but also are they getting parking? How spacious is it? Do they have their own yard? Are they allowed to have dogs? Where can their dogs walk? Is it gated? All of the above, and you need to still be in a position where you're still profitable, which makes it a lot harder, especially for accredited investors. And this is why most investors are switching to Section 8 because they are in a position where you can still get max rent, but also not have to invest a fuck ton tailoring a service, because renting is really just a service that you're providing to these people, right? Because who wants to go invest in the gate, then fucking cutting it off? Like you, there's so many other things that go into it because this person is actually giving you the cash that they worked hard for, right? Either they work hard for, or they have an emotional attachment to it. And the only investment right now that I've seen with predictability is Section 8. With crypto, it's up and down. With multifamily, it can still work traditionally because I'm telling you, I have them, right? But the problem with it is that you're in a situation where you're capped, and it's a little bit harder. Multifamily works very well when there's a mixture of Section 8 and traditional, or just fill on Section 8. But with these Section 8 tenants, you're also in a position where they're sitting there for 5 to 10 years. Worried about vacancy, turnout. Tenants getting new jobs, and the U.S. government is never going to stop printing money. If any of you could go and find me a time in history when the U.S. government was not printing money, I will personally go and give you $1,000. So it's not just investors. You have to think about it from a perspective of the person that's also going to put you in a position to get the property, which is the lender. Most of you, if you're watching this, are not going to be buying properties cash because of two reasons. One, you don't have the cash, or two, you're in a situation where it does not make sense. If you have the cash, you understand the power of leverage, and you're not going to be in a situation where you buy a unit outright. Most lenders are tightening financing on short-term rentals and even long-term rentals because they're in a situation where they are investors as well in regards to the capital that they give you. So they need to understand how are they going to guarantee to themselves that they're going to get this money back. The other thing is not even necessarily in terms of investment properties, but also house hacking. That's something that's not considered an investment property, but it's still financing underneath a personal name, which should be heightened risk because everything comes down at the higher level to risk mitigation. It's not just about being in a situation where you could put in $1,000, fucking be ultra leveraged and buy property like I had this kid Sergio do. The thing is that you have to be in a situation where you understand how am I going to withstand this bear market, not bear market, but hard market in regards to this current administration where there's so much fucking unpredictability. And when you're in a situation where Section 8 has this guaranteed rental income, the lenders see and they understand where either one, the property already has a Section 8 tenant, so they say, okay, well, it's going to be guaranteed rent, so they don't need you to have a bunch of reserves to close on the property, even though these properties are within $100,000 to $200,000. So it's not a lot of money that they would need to see as reserves. And two, they're in a situation where they feel a lot more comfortable after the fact. After the fact, we're giving this loan, and they say, okay, well, this person is not going to have a tenant for the next maybe 30 days, 45 days, and they allow you to be in a position where you get better terms simply because they understand once this property is rented in Section 8, they're going to be getting their guaranteed rental payment. You're going to be getting the guaranteed rental payment that's going to be going and paying the mortgage payment. because all the lender cares about is giving you enough leeway to go and maximize the loan they can give you, because it's a 30-year note they're making money from you, but you still be in a situation to pay them back, because they don't want to go and send you to collections. They don't want to go and chase you. They don't want to foreclose on the property, because they will lose money, or they will spend unnecessary money, time, and energy. If you're in a situation where you lent out $100 to your friend because they wanted to start a lemonade stand, and the lemonade stand completely tanked, and you are a very busy individual, and it's going to cost you $500 of your working hour to go and chase this individual for this $100. Does it make sense to go chase it? No, it does not. You want them to just pay you back. You want to give them terms that allow you to be in a position where you get that repayment. It's the exact same thing with this. Like I said, lending is starting to strengthen, but if you're in a situation where you become a accredited investor by doing things like this, right? Buying a Sportplex, boom, 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 financing is not a problem, especially with understanding creative financing, which is something that is seen as something like so foreign to the everyday individual, but it's not that complicated. And it's something that I used when I was in a situation where I didn't have W-2s, I didn't have tax returns, I didn't have 2 years of work employment. So many different things that you could do. So why many investors are switching this, right? There's people like Eric Sportford, Ecom Side Hustle, Novara Custom. There's so many different other, gurus that are doing this, right? And when the government is obviously paying the rent and it's federally backed, not state backed, you're in a situation where there's multiple laws that have to pass or stages that have to pass in regards to it potentially being removed. That's why when Trump said he was going to remove it, it never got removed, because of all the stages that has to pass. If it's something on the local or state level, it has a higher probability of it being a situation maybe it gets paused or whatever, even though that hasn't happened. So you need to understand your risk mitigation in terms of your personal, but then also the risk mitigation of the federal government, right? What does this do for the government? The government's in a position where if they stop providing this affordable housing for these individuals in terms of paying their rent, the landlord kicks them out. Now we have a homeless problem. What does homelessness lead to? Crime, drug use, all of the above, and it's a spiral effect. That's why when I mentioned in the video about 6 months ago, maybe even less than that, I said Section 8 is not going to end, because look at the fucking risk mitigation the U.S. has if it ends it. Imagine the amount of crime that we would have. There's millions of people that are on Section 8, and there's millions of investors that rely on the income that's given from, obviously, the Section 8 program. Not to mention, in the recession and the pandemic, people that were in Airbnb were getting fucking killed. So people like, Eric Sportford, other vetted investors were in Section 8. They're still getting their guaranteed rental payment. Alongside that, we're in a position where they're getting above market rent, because if someone's in a predicament where they're working fast food and say they're renting out your multifamily, like some of the tenants that we have that are working everyday Americans, we can't just go and say, hey, here's a 10% increase on your rent overnight or the next following year, because that's not the raise that they're getting in this economy. And the U.S. government is never going to stop printing money. So we understand that they have an unlimited budget. We keep pulling from them. Not only, like I mentioned, risk mitigation in terms of what you lose, but also what you benefit from. Profitability in a hard market is a fucking huge thing, because if you could be profitable in a hard market, the second that the economy booms and everything goes back to normal, you're going to fucking crush. And the reason why you're going to crush is because you're going to be in a situation where not only were you doing well in this hard market where there was lower competition, but you're also in a situation where you have the upside from being an accredited investor that the lender saw. If they can make it through this fucking market that sucked, here is all these new financing products you can do. Here's this new loan product that could go and lower your payment. That's, hey, here's this refi opportunity. So many different fucking things by having skin in the game and enduring these hard markets. Not to mention when you're in a situation where it's you go through these hard times, you're in a position where not only to these lenders and these people that are in positions that help you buy these properties, people that want to invest with you, whatever the fuck, you have these other people that are either home seller, that are investors that are selling their units. You get those opportunities because they know that you're about it, because you went through the trials and tribulations, and a much more doors to start open for yourself. And it's going to be something that does not seem like it makes sense in the beginning, but it only makes sense when you look at it back in reverse and you go through the storm, right? And I'm not married to Section 8 by any means. This is one of our properties in California, or well, 2 of our properties. So there's 6 units right here, here in California. These are not all Section 8. Not every tenant is Section 8, and I'm not married to it by any means. But I understand that I'm in a situation where some of the units, it makes sense to have a cash flow, right? But I also understand that things are starting to change. That's why with some tenants that leave, for example, in this multifamily, and if vacancy is in a position where it becomes an issue, which it hasn't, then I will switch to complete Section 8, because that's why I'm switching to Section 8. In regards to these units, because most of my out-of-states are Section 8, simply because of the fact that these tenants are going to sit for 5 to 7 years in Section 8, with Section 8 vouchers. We have it kind of like on a 50-50 split of these units, but I understand that it matters time when they are complete Section 8 units, it's going to be fucking easy days. So I understand that although it's working for me right now, I have to slowly make that gradual change because I'm not going to be able to make the most of my investment in terms of upside, but also protect myself in terms of downside. Because with a property like these, on the people that are cash tenants, I can't just raise the rent on them every single year. I mean, every single year without facing repercussions, or having to be cautious and think about things beyond the surface level of, oh, I just want to make more money. Because then you raise the rent, person can pay it, then it's either do you swap them, do you fucking say, I'm going to keep the rent here, then you want to bring in another tenant because someone else left, and now you're in a position where you have to say, okay, well, is that new tenant going to come in and pay the same as this person? Are they going to pay more? Is this person going to have the opportunity to somehow speak to this other individual? And if they do speak to this individual, are they going to be talking about how much they paid to see if it matches? And then this person doesn't want to move in because this person said, hey, the original tenant said, hey, I'm paying $1,500 a month. Then this new tenant says, hey, this fool's going to charge me $1,700. See how everything pans back out into each other, like $1,500 a month, $1,500 a month. Then this is the rebate we got from this property before, right after we bought it. So that is why Section 8, on the other hand, you're in a situation where you don't have that rent cap, especially in the landlord-friendly states. California, people say, oh, don't buy in California because of the landlord laws and the prices. Most of the times because they don't know how to make it work. They don't know how to make it work. If the market has the most fucking profitability in terms of appreciation, then why are you not going to try and make it work? Because then you have the flywheel of appreciation and cash flow. And that is speaking from personal experience. I understood the power of cash flow, but I also understand the power of appreciation because I'm taking a loan against the appreciating asset. Not to mention, with having no rent control or rent cap in Cleveland, which this is one of the properties that I own. I didn't get the other pictures of the other units because I just wanted to make this video, put it out there, is that you're not going and asking the tenant directly to pay more rent. You're asking the government. And if the government's in a situation where they say, hey, I'm going to increase your rent payment from, for example, this property making $1,900 a month in regards to like net, say, for example, gross, say $2,500 gross, this unit, $2,500 gross. We're going to increase your rent from $2,500 gross. We asked for an increase in 10%, so it's going to increase from $2,500 gross to $2,750, right? Because that's a 10% increase. That may only increase the tenant's portion by $50, and the tenant's in a position where maybe they're paying 5% of what the whole amount is. But you have to understand from the government's perspective, they say, hey, to the tenant, and the person that's representing them, which is the caseworker, saying, hey, you know what? This your landlord filed a rent increase. Your portion may increase by $50. Do you want to move out of this fucking unit that is 6 beds? 7 beds and 2 bathrooms because of a $50 increase, or do you want to stay here after you waited 7 years to be in a situation where you got a voucher that you can apply to this unit? Do you see how crazy it sounds to the tenant in terms of how ridiculous it would sound to the tenant to leave, or how ridiculous it sounds for the tenant to leave in that position? Because they're in a situation where their rent is only increasing by $50 on an annual basis, not to mention most of the fucking rent being paid by the government, or if not all of it. And this tenant's going to leave a 7-bed, 2-bath after they waited 7 years to go and be in a position where they could live in this fucking unit for almost free. You have to think about it from that perspective in terms of the tenant, not only a matter of as an investor, but also the tenant's perspective. And that's why, as an investor, when you think about it from the tenant's perspective, you understand that the least amount of risk in this current market is with Section 8. Let me go to some of the last parts. Once you get the green light, after you close on your property, or at least you have a current property, you switch it to Section 8, you have guaranteed rent that comes through from the government. Like I mentioned, I've repeated this multiple times, but I need you guys to understand that. And it's stable, right? It makes the property a lot easier to go and leverage for future purposes, because when you want to take a loan out against the equity of the house, on multifamily units, it goes off of the performance of it, and if it shows guaranteed for performance, has a higher appraisal, etc. Shout out to a whole different video. This is old picture to show you guys that I've been doing this shit. $2,350. That's after property management. If I'm in a position where it's $2,350 and I'm in a position where my fucking mortgage payment is $800, where in California, where in fucking anywhere besides landlord-friendly states with the right buy box, can you find a property that has an $800 mortgage payment? Most of you guys are paying a card note that's $800. But I'm in a situation where one property has an $800 mortgage payment and is bringing in close to $2,400 a month. Not to mention, if I am in a position where I start to acquire these assets and time just goes on and on and on, you do things like this. You have a refinance, you bring out $100,000 tax free at 21 years old. Does it start to make sense in regards to this whole thing? Because the lender that's giving me the refinance sees this property stabilized, this property is profitable, and it's guaranteed. Right? I didn't even post this on Instagram, but I'm in a situation where I get to do this because the lender sees that I'm not a risk. The less of a risk that you could oppose yourself to, be to these lenders, will allow you to be in a situation where you can go and scale and acquire multiple properties after once. But the only way you're able to do that is by becoming a accredited investor, which means you need to get in the door with the right business model, or not business model, investment model, right? How do you buy your first property? You need to set funds aside, because if you're in a situation where you have no skill sets, no money, no credit, buying a property is not your best bet. I don't know who needed to tell you that, but I'm gonna be the one to tell you that. You're not gonna be able to buy a property just for free. And the reason why I meant free is not even necessarily in terms of money aspect. It's also in terms of time and energy allocation. I've had people that bought properties that cost them like $1,000 all in. This is also from someone that got paid to buy that fourplex that I showed you guys. But the bottom line is that it wasn't free in terms of my time and energy allocation, and also the legwork I had to do to get the skill sets to be in this position to actually go and get that deal done, right? Identifying the right state, city, county based off of your goals. Your goal cash flows, the depreciation. Alongside that, understanding that the fucking United States is huge. The United States is huge. And you're probably like, what does this statement have to mean? You do not need to buy in your backyard. Whoever told you that you need to buy in your backyard is doing you a disservice. Because the first property I bought at 20 years old was not in my backyard. I haven't even been to it. But it's giving me guaranteed rental income every single month. And with Section 8, it's not going anywhere. Trump tried. This is a picture that I took back in May of last year. Section 8 is still here. And if you are in a situation where you want to get more information on this, go and check this out. This is something that you could DM me for, or I'll probably put in the YouTube description. This is everything you need to know in regards to the vital steps of buying the property. And I've made a video about this before, but this document will help you out. But if you're in a situation where after seeing this and also referring back to the things that I've talked about previously in my other YouTube videos, you don't really know exactly what the next step is to take, message me section on Instagram. It will be in the description in terms of the link, or it's just my name, which is Xavier A. Vega. I will answer all of them. I'll see if I can help you out. If I can't, then I'll refer you to somewhere where it can make more sense to get assistance. But this is why most investors are switching to it, and it's barely in a position where it's going to fucking take off like a hockey stick. And so far, with all of the predictions I've made in regards to this whole Section 8 investing space, I haven't really been wrong that many. So I don't take that with arrogance. I say that just with an observation of the observations that I made. So if you guys have any questions, DM me, leave a comment on this video. Let me know if you want more videos like this, and I'll catch you on the flip.